What is up, everybody? We are back on Twitch. This is Lost Tribe's most famous podcast ever, Pass the Rock, and we want to show you our new intro, so stay tuned.
Could one of y'all pass the gosh darn rock? Hey, yo, I'm trying, I ain't lying, and hosting this will be Brian. He posting like Kobe Bryant, he flying to see the pilot. Hit the hezzy, we got Jesse, opinions get kinda messy. A fan of Adeleti's, from football to racing jet skis. This is Pass the Rock, don't stop the shot clock. Pass the slap shot, come on, now let's talk. Pass the rock.
And I say we're back on Twitch. We're on Lost Tribe TV. So twitch.tv/Lost Tribe TV. That's where you're finding us today. I want to introduce my co-hosts today, Zach and Jack. Zach, how you doing today?
Doing good. How was your weekend?
Oh, all good. In Nashville, catching a little Music City music, so that was pretty good. And hot take, Nissan Stadium, which I know we're going to talk about stadiums in a second. Looks like a high school stadium. If we have anybody in Nashville, I'm really sorry. There's no stands in the end zones. It looks ridiculous. But let me introduce my friend Jack, who up until a few years ago had no football in his hometown of LA. So, Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And, we do have the MLB All-Star Game coming up next week in beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, California.
That's true. That's true. And you have one of the most expensive stadium in the NFL now, SoFi, which was, all glitz and glamour last Super Bowl. So anyway, let's get right to it. Pittsburgh is a huge piece of what Lost Tribe does and who Lost Tribe is. And Heinz Field is no more. So, Jack, as the resident Steelers fan, tell us a little bit about what is going on in Pittsburgh? Why can't we celebrate ketchup like we always have?
I mean, I'm disgusted by the fact that this is happening. I mean, this is the second time to me that this has happened to me this year as a Lakers fan, that because of like a naming rights deal, that a classic stadium name has been taken away from us and been put in place for something that, I don't even know what the new name of the stadium is called. What is it? Like, Acrisure. I literally don't even know what it is. Whatever it is, it's not Heinz, so it's disgusting. So, I mean, there's something that is beautiful and special about ketchup in Pittsburgh, and the fact that they're taking this away from us it's disgusting. I can't even think about how disgusting I am.
There is something beautiful and special about ketchup in Pittsburgh. That has to be the quote of the day, for sure. Yeah, I mean, when you name your stadium after an insurance firm, it's just super boring. Ketchup was really one of the anomaly, weird companies that sponsored a stadium. You didn't see a lot of condiments. There's no French's mustard arena or anything like that. There is Smoothie King Center. So, when you go on the food back, also known as
Nola.
Also known as the Blender, which I think is one of the best nicknames. But, I got the flag behind me, so I'm a little bit on that side. So let me think of this. When I go to Zach, what's a better name for the Pittsburgh Stadium?
Okay, first of all, I just got to say, this is my own hot take, not really sports related. Ketchup is overrated. Very overrated, in my opinion. I still think Heinz Field should have always been the name for the stadium. It was the best name, but I'm kind of disappointed at the lack of a push from Sheetz. I would have loved to see Sheetz Field because, Sheetz, big in-state business, big Pittsburgh business. Philly, we got our Wawa. Pittsburgh, they have their Sheetz. I'm in West Virginia. There's also Sheetz here, but Sheetz is known for being on the Western Pennsylvania side. So I would have loved to have seen a Sheetz Field. I was saying, Sheetz Field, that would be a really good name, but no, we're stuck with Acrisure, and I'm Acrisure. That is the most boring name for a stadium I've heard in a while. Come on,
yeah.
Nissan Stadium that you mentioned, that's a pretty decent name. You got these. I like that name.
Yeah, 4 minutes in, and you already got your first dad joke. I like it. So I want you to hear me out, Jack. This is what I think they should have changed it. I agree. You stick with ketchup. Ketchup is not overrated, by the way. Mayonnaise, way overrated. And I'm from the South, where it's everywhere. You could just walk on a street corner and get it. So PPG Industries Stadium, Pittsburgh Paints. That's where you see the Steel logo on the side of their spray cans. I mean, it just says Steel, not Steelers. Give me PPG Industries. What do you think of that?
The only problem with that is that I'm like 90% sure that's the name of the stadium where the Pittsburgh Penguins play.
Okay.
I'm sure it's like, I mean, I don't know
It
if you want to
is.
have two PPG like
It's
arenas or
PPG
whatever.
Arena.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So,
Okay.
I
So
don't
it's
know- I
taken.
don't know if do that
Did you not
twice.
know that Did you not
Well-
know the Penguins played in PPG Arena?
No, I don't
Oh
think
my
I knew that. But
Yeah.
let's think about this.
You're
The
out here
Saints and the
hosting a sports
Falcons,
podcast.
I
You're
do.
hosting- You're
But it's
hosting
hockey.
a sports podcast.
but it's hockey. It's hockey.
Yeah.
I love hockey. Very fun in the playoffs, but that's about it. But what you have to think about is the fact that oh man, I lost my train of thought on that one. See, you got me all perplexed. The Saints and the Falcons both played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium at the same time. Okay, so
Yeah,
you
but
remember
it's
that.
a little bit more confusing if they're in the same city. Like imagine you're living in Pittsburgh and you're like, okay, I'm going to PPG tonight. Which one?
Yeah, well, the beautiful thing you have to remember is the last victory in the playoffs at Heinz Field was by the Browns. So let's just remember that. Jack, I'll go back to you. I'll go back to you now. What are some of the best stadium names that are currently in use? Okay, so we don't like Acrisure Stadium, of course we don't. But what are some of the good ones you think?
I mean, I'm not a fan of anything where like the brand is the name of the stadium. I prefer it when it either has something to do with the location or with the team that's playing there or something like that. So, I mean, my two favorites are the two old baseball stadiums, Fenway Park and Wrigley Field. Fenway has to do with like the area that it's in. I think they call that part of the state of Massachusetts a Fenway. So I think that's where that comes from. And then Wrigley Field, believe it or not, is not a sponsored field. It's named after the Cubs owner or the former owner who used to it was also the founder of Wrigley Gum. So
Right.
It's not like a naming rights thing, but it's also just like classic and cool because, like baseball cards and Wrigley Gum, and it's the perfect name.
I swear I read the other day that like Wrigley Field, like it is like company sponsored, but it's from so long ago they've just stuck with it. Like it's like the original company sponsored one, so we don't even associate with the company anymore. My personal favorites can't go wrong with Lambeau Field. I mean, it's a classic name, classic stadium. But I really like Camden Yards. Camden Yards is one of my favorite names. Another baseball stadium, but no team calls their place like a yard. You don't hear that. You don't hear a yard. And Camden Yards has been known as one of the beautiful ballparks. I want to go to a game there someday. Hopefully the Phillies go into town for the Orioles for a series against them someday. But, I mean, until then, Camden Yards is one of the best names in sports. It's one of the best looking stadiums in sports.
I agree. It's very old school. There are definitely, multiple examples in MLB of something yards, so that's a cool old school name. I agree, Jack. And I think most people agree. You like the stadiums that are just named after a person or the city or whatever without the corporate attachment. But I do really like that when the Broncos rebuilt their stadium, Empower Field, first of all, a really cool corporate sponsor, Empower, but it's at Mile High. So they brought in the old school Mile High Stadium, which is what it was called probably through all of our childhoods until it changed probably about 10 years ago. So that's a cool one. Obviously, let's get down to some real sports, but too bad for the Pittsburgh fans who are probably going to call it Heinz anyway. Let's be real.
They totally will. They totally will.
Really quick, I want everybody to join us on July 24th. We're having our second annual Sadakathon. It is a 12-hour stream, and we're going to be collecting money, donating money for Ukraine. So please join us. It helps the Jewish National Fund's Ukraine Relief Fund. See a bunch of influencers. We're going to have a Pass the Rock episode as well. You could win gift cards, an Xbox, a PS5, the whole deal. July 24th, it's a Sunday, 10 Eastern to 10 Eastern a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern. So really exciting. Come join us there. Also, stay tuned later this week for a new thing we have going on at Pass the Rock called it's our Just One More Take. And we are each going to, later in the week, follow up all the great takes we give you today with one more great one. You get to vote on which one's the best. There'll be prizes. It'll be exciting. Check it out on our Discord and our social media. So just one more take. Jack's got a lot of takes. He was trying to give us 3 or 4 right before the show. I told him to wait for the show. So here we are. Let's move on to the MLB All-Star Game, okay? Like Jack said, happening in Dodger Stadium, another very easy, cool name to remember for a stadium. Jack, take us through. Let's look at the NL. Who do you think is the starting pitcher for the NL side?
I mean, to me, there are three real options, and that's Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, and Sandy Alcantara. Sandy Alcantara, I'll start with him, has been far and away the best pitcher in the National League this year. He's got like a 1.8 ERA, I think. He's been dominating for the Marlins, and he, on paper, deserves to be the starter. But I am a biased Dodgers fan.
Yep.
And it is in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium, so I have the right to be biased in this situation. And I think that either Gonsolin or Kershaw, right? Tony Gonsolin has come out of nowhere this year and just been dominant. He's in the NL Cy Young conversation with like a 1.6 ERA out of nowhere. So he's got to be up there. But I think the starter has to be Clayton Kershaw. I mean, Kershaw, I think this is his 9th All-Star game in his career. He's one of the best pitchers of all time. And, he has never started an All-Star game. So what a better time than to start him at Dodger Stadium in front of the home crowd. I would love it. My favorite player of all time at home.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, he's the obvious choice. I'm a Padres fan, and you have to start a Dodger, right? If you're not going to start Joe Musgrove, then you're going to have to start a Dodger. All right. And he's the one. It's like the Lifetime Achievement Award. I agree. It's in Dodger Stadium. It's a great thing. And Alcantara can still pitch like the second inning or the third inning. So yeah, I think that's a great call.
Honestly, though, no, I'm jumping in here, right? Look, I'm a little biased too. Tony Gonsolin's on my really good fantasy baseball team. As Brian knows, I've been doing pretty well in fantasy baseball this year. I picked him up off waivers, which I think is pretty embarrassing. It's pretty embarrassing. Look for the league now that he's in consideration to be an all-star starter. But Sandy Alcantara has really impressed me this year. I honestly think he should be the one to start, even if it is in Dodger Stadium. I get the reasoning with Clayton Kershaw. I think they should go with him because of it. But I think Sandy Alcantara has just been insane this year. I think, I don't think there should be any issue if Sandy starts, because he's really earned being the number one guy this year for the NL. He has been absolutely insane.
He's definitely
let Kershaw start the All-Star game.
No. Kershaw, he's great. All-time great pitcher. No, not this year. Sandy's got it.
Well, I look forward to later this week when we have one more take and we get to talk more about who is actually starting for the NL. Let's move over to the AL. Is it even a discussion, Zach, when you look at those AL pitchers, who the starter is going to be?
I mean, I think it's kind of crazy that Shohei got a hitter and a pitcher spot. Yeah. It's a little unfair because there are definitely some there's some AL talent out there that didn't, get a vote that could have been in there. But Shohei is Shohei. I mean, I'm picking Shohei the pitcher. Like he's dominant. He's still as great as he was last season. Nothing's changed whatsoever. It really sucks seeing the Angels not put anything around them and just perpetually just exist as a bad baseball team when you have Shohei and Mike Trout. But it's Shohei Ohtani. I'm not going to go against Shohei Ohtani, though. I gotta say, Shane McClanahan has also had a really good season. He should be the second inning pitcher for sure. Mm-hmm. But Shohei's getting that start. There's no way he's not.
Going to you, Jack. Are you willing to take the field in this, or are you going Shohei as well?
I mean, I was going to argue the case for McClanahan. I think that he should win. If the season ended today, he would be the AL Cy Young. I don't think there is a doubt in my mind about that. But Shohei Ohtani has been filthy as a pitcher this year. I mean, last season I thought he was a better hitter than he was a pitcher. This year I think he might be a better pitcher than he is a hitter. So, I mean, you never know. Like, the guy is unbelievable. He's an alien. He's the most fun player to watch in all of baseball. And it's the All-Star game. We're supposed to have fun here. Let the guy start.
Exactly, which is why Clayton Kershaw is going to start on the other side, because we're here to have fun. We don't care. In that we can talk about the game meaning something or whatever, but You got to like the old days when the NL didn't ever play against the AL, and so this was one of those situations where it's a big deal. But yeah, it's Shohei. I'm not going with the field on this one. Everybody else is going to back him up. He probably pitches 2 innings unless the Angels just say there's absolutely no way. But he's a clear cut. Who are the big snubs from the All-Star team? Zach, I'll start with you. Any big names that you're like, I can't believe this player didn't make it? Any Phillies, any other team?
Yeah. There's 2 big names, one Philly, but there's 2 big names that I'm absolutely shocked did not make it this year. I'll start with the non-Philly. Ty France absolutely deserved an All-Star nod. He's been playing great the entire year. He had a really good April. He's still playing, just as well for the past 2 months. He totally deserved to be a hitter. And, like I said, Shohei got the hitter. Shohei got the hitter and the pitcher all-star spots.
Mm-hmm.
Ty France should have totally been up there as, as that guy for like a hitter. I mean, maybe, because like first base, or whatever position he plays. But like, I mean, it's a pretty contested like spot in the AL, but I'm saying he should totally have been voted in as an all-star, at least as a reserve hitter. Like, It's insane that he didn't get it. And then now to my Phillies. Both Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler are considered snubs. I can understand that, not both, that like one of them didn't get on. Like, I mean, Nola's been really good, but I don't know if I'd say he's like up, up at the top. But Zach Wheeler is up at the top. Zach Wheeler has been that guy. I keep seeing a graphic online where it's a comparison in stats between Zach Wheeler and NL pitcher Luis Castillo for the Reds, who made the All-Star vote. And Zach Wheeler beats him in every single statistic, and he is not an All-Star. He was second in Cy Young voting last year, and he's not an All-Star this year. I don't know how you can explain that. You can't explain that. He's been just as dominant as ever. So Zach Wheeler should be an All-Star. Ty France should definitely be an All-Star. And yeah, that's my point.
Jack, any names on the list for you that got snubbed that you're like, look, we got to get this guy in here?
I mean, so there were 2 names on the list that I would go to war for. One of which was Ty France. I think he absolutely deserves to be an All-Star. And the other guy is from my Dodgers, Will Smith. I think Will Smith is the best catcher in baseball. I'm going to say it outright. He's absolutely the best hitting catcher in baseball. And he's steadily improved defensively throughout his career to the point that this season, he's an above-average defensive catcher. And you pair that with how he's been hitting the ball, I think he's the best catcher in baseball, other than maybe Wilson Contreras. That's the only other guy that you have an argument for. And the fact that Travis d'Arnaud is on the All-Star team over Will Smith is mind-boggling to me. And I know that the only reason that he's on there is because Braves fans show out in the fan voting, and he got a ton of votes because he's on the Atlanta Braves. But Will Smith should be an All-Star. He's been the most consistent bat in that Dodgers lineup this year, not named Trey Turner. And I honestly have no idea how he's not.
Yeah, no, it's well, it's all linked to our last question, because the spots, number one, Zach brought up the fact that Shohei's got 2 spots somehow. And then the fact that every team has their own, has at least one All-Star, doesn't happen in any other league. You don't see it, in the NFL, NBA, whatever. So what do you guys think about that? That actually limits, that's why there are all these snubs. Now, we do still have the 6 or 7 players that'll opt out, and then, somebody else gets brought up. So you may see Ty France get a spot in the end, but it's not the same as being called when you should be called. So does every team deserve an All-Star? I'll let you guys weigh in. I'm against it. And look, I've been a fan of the Padres when there were many years we did not deserve an All-Star. Okay. Now, this is not that year, but that has happened in the past. So, Zach, do you think it's good for baseball that every team, every MLB team is represented? So, to get people to clock in and see what's going on in the All-Star game?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are some, I saw a tweet earlier from Bob Nightingale, MLB Insider, being like, 20, basically saying that 20 of the 30 teams in MLB are like really competitive right now. That's pretty much saying like they're close to like the division lead, or they're close to the wild card, like all that stuff. That means there are 10 teams that probably shouldn't be represented in this All-Star game. Why are the Oakland A's being represented at this year's All-Star game? They are absolutely horrible. I don't care how good their best pitcher is. They shouldn't be represented if they're not as good as, again, Zach Wheeler or Aaron Nola. If they're not as good, or Carlos Rodon for speaking of pitchers, like we should not have a Reds All-Star. We should not have an Oakland A's All-Star. These bottom of the barrel teams don't have the talent to be truly called All-Stars. And meanwhile, we're getting snubs left and right from players that totally deserve that, have been playing at that elite level to be considered an All-Star. I mean, we already talked about Ty France a lot. I agree with Will Smith. He should have gotten better consideration. Austin Riley, Freddie Freeman, another Dodger. Mm-hmm. Josh Bell has had some amazing games. And yes, while he's on the Nationals, he's still way better than some of these players that were just shoved in, just shoehorned in as the filler for a team. I mean, Josh Bell might not have the best, accolades for this year, but he totally could have gotten better consideration than some of the guys who actually did make it just representing their team this year. So
yeah, well, it can't be the Dodgers against the AL, okay? Everybody calm down. They haven't won the World Series yet.
Look, I get that it can't be the Dodgers against the AL, but that's why there's reserves for the hitters and the pitchers. That's why Kyle Schwarber isn't starting in the All-Star game, but he's still a reserve for the my guy Kyle Schwarber this year. Make them reserves. Don't make them starters. They have reserves for a reason. Make them reserves. Call them All-Stars as they properly should be, instead of shoehorning some guy who's half as talented as them from a team that isn't doing so well. Just shoehorning them in.
Yeah, really quick, I want to say hey to Epic on Discord telling me he wasn't even invited to talk about the MLB All-Star game, but, tough. So no White Sox fans here. Jack, your quick thoughts on whether every team should get a spot. As you've already said, everybody should be Dodgers.
I mean, no, I don't think every team should get a spot. Not every team has a deserving All-Star. I mean, you have to earn it to be in the All-Star game, and that system doesn't allow that to happen. And I think the biggest example of that is in the bullpen, because it really seems like when the MLB is like, all right, I don't know who to put in. Let's just shove in this terrible team's closer. And we're like, let him throw an inning in the back end of the game, and that'll do it. And I think there's two examples of that, one in each league this year. Joe Mantiply from the Diamondbacks he's an average closer. He's not an all-star. And he gets in over guys like Taylor Rogers or Kenley Jansen because the Diamondbacks didn't have an all-star. Makes no sense. And it's the same thing in the AL with Gregory Soto of the Tigers. Their lone representative, not named Miguel Cabrera because of the new rule, but their lone real representative is Gregory Soto. And he gets in the AL over some great closers. I mean, I don't understand how this happens. The guys that deserve to be all-stars should be all-stars. And you can't just throw someone in there because they're like, he's the best player on the team. We got to get him in.
Look, it's little league rules, okay? There's the best player in every team. We got to get him on there, and that's how it works. So stay tuned next Monday. Maybe we'll fill out some brackets on the home run derby because that'll be happening next Monday night at Chavez Ravine. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit of NFL. We're on our third division preview. That means we're almost halfway done, which means the season's that much closer. We're going to my favorite division, the NFC South. Home of the Saints, the Falcons, the Bucks, and the Panthers. So, NFC South, we all know the winner for the first time in 5 years. It wasn't the Saints last year. It was the Bucks. 13-4, lost in the divisional round to the LA Rams. Does Tom Brady, find the magic again? And is his getting Chris Godwin back really the key to that? Jack, we'll start with you.
I mean, it's Tom Brady. I mean, the guy's 45, 46 years old. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's
at least 40. He's my age. He's 45.
46? No, he's 45. But I mean, he just, I've doubted him, but in the past, and I've gotten to the point, I think I got to this point last offseason, and I'm like, I'm done doubting him.
Yeah.
He's going to be Tom Brady. And at this point, that might not be the best quarterback in the league anymore, but it's definitely the most clutch quarterback in the league. And the smartest quarterback in the league, he's still Tom Brady. And with a team like that, they have a very good defense. They have a great run game with Leonard Fournette, the rookie Rachaad White I like a lot, and Mike Evans, of course. And they're going to get Chris Godwin back. They're really, really good, and they still have Tom Brady. They're going to be right back.
Okay, going to be right back. Zach, what are your thoughts? I mean, Godwin may be back for the beginning of the season, may miss a few weeks. I mean, obviously he's going to be there in the clutch when they need him. This team has not shown the ability to beat the Saints. They beat everybody else, but they've had a tough time. Do they run away with this division? Actually, save that for later. We'll talk about your division.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Brady and the offense.
Yes.
What do you think of his utilization? He doesn't have Gronk, at least right now, for this season. Maybe that changes later. Can he come back and repeat the almost MVP season he had last year?
Yeah. Before we get started on that, I have my Phillies on right here. Reese Hoskins just hit a nuke 400 feet.
Is that breaking news?
It is breaking news. Nah. Go Phils. Anyways, yeah, literally right there. Phils.
Yeah, we believe you.
Gotta be the Phils. On Tom Brady, it's Tom Brady, like Jack just said. It's Tom Brady. You really can't count Tom Brady out unless he's injured, and we don't wish injuries on anyone.
Right.
Even if Gronk's not there, it's Tom Brady. He's got his weapons. His game plan, it's a lot of short passes, but they're very effective short passes. If you watch a Buccaneers game, it might not be the most entertaining, but it'll be very effective. I don't see Tom Brady slowing down. I mean, it's Tom Brady. I have no reason to doubt him slowing down. The Buccaneers, to me, still look like they're going to be the best team in this division just because they're the most well-rounded team. But, of course, points come from Brady. No reason to doubt Brady.
Yeah, I think what happens this year is he has his worst season as a Buck. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a terrible season. Okay. I do think they lean on Fournette more. I think that was their biggest signing in the offseason because they need to, move that clock along. And, and I'm not doubting his arm strength. I'm not doubting his competitiveness. I just think in the end, he has his worst season as a Buck, which is still a really great season. So I do think he regresses a little bit. We'll talk about who I'm picking to win the division later. Let's move on to second place last year. My New Orleans Saints, 9-8, just missed the playoffs. If the Rams could have finished off the 49ers, they would have made the playoffs and played the Rams in round one. What do we think of this new receiving core, Mike Thomas, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry? What I will tell you is this is the best receiving core the Saints have had since before Drew Brees was the quarterback. He never had this kind of weaponry. Obviously, he had a lot of success with it. What do you think about these three? I'm going to start with you, Jack.
I'm really excited to see them play together. I think that this is not only is it the best receiving core the Saints have had since Drew Brees, it's also the best receiving core that Jameis Winston has had in his entire career. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's going to be a big prove-it year for Jameis Winston. I think this is probably his last shot to be like, I'm that guy. I can be a starting quarterback for an NFL team and be a good quarterback. And this receiving core is really, really good. If Michael Thomas can stay on the field, he's going to be a top 5 receiver in the league minimum. And I'm a big Chris Olave fan. I think he was awesome at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if Garrett Wilson wasn't on his team, he might have been the first receiver taken in this draft.
Right.
But Olave is amazing. And Jarvis Landry was a really, really good pickup. I mean, he's probably, I think at some point in the season, Olave gets more targets than Landry, and Landry's your third receiver. And if that's the case, that's a ridiculous third receiver. I mean, the Saints offense this season is really set up for success. And I think that it's going to be a prove-it year. It's on Jameis Winston, but he could do it.
Yeah. So let me go to you, Zach, and ask you 2 questions. One, do you think Jameis can step up? Not necessarily to be an MVP level quarterback, but just to be that successful quarterback. Saints also have a really strong top 10 ish defense. But the big question that everybody in New Orleans is asking is, can Dennis Allen come close to filling Sean Payton's role? So new coach, first time in 15 years. So take those 2 for me.
Man, well, I mean, it really comes down to Jameis Winston for the offense. I have no doubt in my mind that this wide receiver room can succeed. I mean, Michael Thomas is still Michael Thomas. I think he might have a little bit of a slow start, but this is still Michael Thomas. Top 10 lock in the league. Top 10 wide receiver is a lock. Top 5. We'll see how this season goes, in my opinion. Chris Olave, great rookie, lots of upside to him. And Jarvis Landry, I think, is super underrated. He's a wide receiver 3 in this room. That is insane. Maybe you make him a wide receiver 2 to have Olave learns a 3. Doesn't matter. However the offense uses them, they should be effective. But yeah, Jameis Winston, if he can play to the level that Kirk Cousins can play at for the Vikings, I think this offense will be insane. Because Kirk Cousins, to me, is the definition of mediocrity at the quarterback position in today's game. He's not bad. He's not elite. He's just a good quarterback, and that is it. If Jameis Winston can be as good, if not better, than Kirk Cousins, I think the Saints are going to be set up for success, and they're going to have a really good offensive season. But of course, all that comes from play calling as well. I don't know a lot about Dennis Allen, but it's really hard to fill in the shoes of Sean Payton. I mean, one of the best coaches in the league, always very inventive, always very good at what he does. I don't know a lot about Dennis Allen, like I've just mentioned.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to fill those shoes. It's going to be hard. I mean, that's the real question of this Saints team besides Jameis Winston. How's the play calling going to be? Is it going to be like an evolved version of Sean Payton's play calling, or will it be a whole different scheme? We'll see how it goes. Those are the only two questions I have for the Saints, and honestly, I'm hoping that they can answer them very well, because this looks like a team that will be built for success.
Well, look, last year they were 5-2 when Jameis went out. The Bucs injured him, and then we finished them off anyway in that game. Then they went through the crazy quarterback carousel, COVID issues included, to the point where Ian Book started a game on Monday night, which was just atrocious. Looked a lot like NBA Summer League sometimes can look. But here's the deal. I think he doesn't have to be a great quarterback, but I think he has the ability to have a 4,000-yard season and like a 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, which is a great season for Jameis Winston. He was on pace at 13-3, 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions last year through 7 games. So you double that, you're right around 25-10 with, a couple extra one way or the other. So I think all the writing is right there. Jack, I think you're right. He gets this one last chance because this team is really built around him to succeed. Dennis Allen's a defensive coach, and so the offense is still run by the same offensive coordinator. Obviously, Sean Payton's not in the room. He was the real offensive coordinator. So I think you're going to see a lot of similarity, and I think you're going to see the ball going to Alvin Kamara a lot. So we'll see. I know I'm excited as a Saints fan, and we'll get to our predictions in a second. Let's go down to the dregs of the division here. We have the Falcons, who were third in 2021, 7-10. Did they ruin their entire offseason by going for Deshaun Watson and then losing Matt Ryan as a factor of that, Jack?
I mean, I honestly am not sure that going for Deshaun Watson ruined them. I think that this disaster of an offseason would have happened either way. I think Matt Ryan's time was coming to an end. It was inevitable that they were going to move on from him. Maybe it wouldn't have been this year if not for the Deshaun Watson situation, but this season or next season, he was done. And I guess you're just accelerating the process and you're raising your odds at next season getting a top pick and hopefully going for CJ Stroud or Bryce Young.
Yeah,
I think this is like it was almost inevitable for them. This roster is horrendous. Yeah. I mean, they're going to be unbelievably bad this year. And I think that they really are going to be in contention for the first pick. And if that's the case, you get your choice of young quarterbacks. So, or maybe Desmond Ridder impresses you and you stick with him. Either way, you're setting yourself up for the future by being terrible this season, and it's not the worst thing in the world for them.
Yeah. So going to you, Zach, Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder, who do you think starts the season? Who do you think finishes it?
I think Mariota does start this season. I mean, I feel like Mariota just hasn't really had the best shot given to him. Like, yeah, he was the guy in Tennessee for a bit, but talking about Tennessee versus Atlanta here, different market, difference of opinions, difference of, how much sustainability a job has. I feel like Mariota has some upside. I would like to see Desmond Ridder hopefully finish out this season. I think he's a good prospect. I mean, if neither of them really impress, I would hope that Bryce Young would go there. I hope that Bryce Young would end up being a Falcon, but there's not really a lot to love here. I looked at their depth chart, and their third string quarterback's name is Felipe Franks.
Yeah, former Florida Gator.
Yeah, Felipe has won this past season. He had 1 attempt and 1 interception. I am not making this up.
Is that a 0 QBR? I think that might be a 0.
That is a 0 QBR rating. It is 1 attempt, 1 interception. I think that's impressive. I want him to get especially in the preseason. I need him to get some time. But there really isn't a lot to love with this Falcons roster right now. I mean, the defense still is a piece or two there, like Grady Jarrett. That's still always nice to see.
Yeah,
But,
Deion Jones. Yeah.
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you look at the roster top to bottom, you're not really looking for anything. You're just kind of like, all right, this team exists this year.
Exactly. Thank goodness
thank
goodness for them there's no relegation, or else they'd be going
seriously
down. No, I think that I would like to say Mariota starts the season and ends the season, and it's not going to be because Ritter takes his spot. It's just going to be because he always ends up injured. Ritter's a very raw prospect. If he's in there, the Falcons are not winning. But I am interested to see. I didn't really like him as a prospect. Obviously, Cincinnati had a very successful season last year, but I don't love him as an NFL prospect. But we'll see what he does. Let's move on to fourth, the Panthers. We already talked quite a bit about the Panthers last week and all their quarterback carousel, but they were 5-12 last year, fourth in the NFC South. Do you think Matt Rule is in danger of losing his job with all this crazy quarterback business, Zach?
Matt Rule has been I haven't been paying the most attention to the Panthers, but from what I've heard, he's been a nut job with his time with the Panthers. I mean, people started out really liking him, and now it's like it's a very mixed bag of opinions. I mean, there's a lot of draft picks that have been given up for this quarterback room, and it is not impressive. I mean, Baker Mayfield should be the starter, and I like Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. I mean, he's got that moxie to him. He's got a big chip on his shoulder now. As long as the Panthers don't let him play injured, he should be a serviceable starter, because the Browns did that last season. Look where look where they are now. They're dealing with a suspension. Hopefully, they're dealing with a possible suspension for the entire year for their quarterback. They signed for a guaranteed contract.
Yeah, too much million.
It's so really funny that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
But I like Baker Mayfield here. I like Matt Corral being his backup. I don't like Sam Darnold still being here, especially for the draft capital that they gave up for him. I mean, I feel like this is probably the end of the road for Sam Darnold at this point. For Matt Rule, though, it really depends on how this team starts out. I mean, if they're going to start out, if the team starts out winning or going like 500 or so, or maybe just being like, say first 6 games or 2-4, could be okay. He could be fine. But if it's like just not looking good right from the gate, he'll probably be fired midseason.
Yeah, it looks like if you take their schedule, they're at home against the Browns, then at the Giants, then at home against the Saints. That's how they start.
Okay.
Then they get Cardinals, 49ers, Rams, Bucks.
Ooh.
That is a gauntlet right there. 4 playoff teams.
Those first 3 games, if Baker Mayfield is even, a mediocre quarterback, I think he could be right around Kirk Cousins level as well.
Yeah.
Everybody
is Kirk Cousins.
Everybody is Kirk Cousins or better. If you're Kirk Cousins or worse, you shouldn't be in this league.
That's right.
But
I think Matt Rule's job, I think he could be fired this year, just because you need a quarterback. Like we talked about last week, they're doing all they can to get that quarterback. I don't know that I also like Baker Mayfield, but I don't know that they really have their future quarterback in the room yet. I think they're going to be obviously in the hunt for that first overall pick as well. So we'll see what happens there. Jack, let me go to you. Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. Okay, some fantasy stalwarts in some years past. Are either of them staying where they are, or are you knocking both of them down because of this quarterback situation?
I'm not going to lie. McCaffrey, I think, stays about where he is. I'm bumping DJ Moore up. I think that, and that's assuming that Baker Mayfield gets the job, which I'm pretty sure that he will.
He will.
I think Baker Mayfield is the best quarterback that DJ Moore has ever had in his career. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think about it, he got the back end of Cam Newton, which was not very good. He got Sam Darnold. He got Cam Newton again. And then now he got Baker Mayfield. And given those options, Baker Mayfield is absolutely the best of them. And DJ Moore has shown that he can be a very good receiver with shaky quarterback play. So if Baker Mayfield is better than shaky, I think that bodes well for DJ Moore. It doesn't necessarily bode well for the Panthers team as a whole, but as DJ Moore, if I'm thinking from a fantasy football perspective, I like DJ Moore more this year than I ever have at any other point in his career.
I can't wait to see how you reach for him in our NFC South fantasy draft in a little bit. Let's get to our standard questions. Over under 1.5 playoff teams from this division. Jack, I'll start with you. Over or under 1.5?
I'm going to take the over. I think both the Bucks and the Saints make the playoffs. I think that the Bucks win the division, but like not by a huge margin, probably by a game or two. And I think that the Saints make it in there as a wild card team. I think that Jameis Winston proves himself as a capable quarterback, and this offense is great. The defense is great. The offensive line, I have to shout out my boy Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin. Love him. But the offensive line is awesome. Even though they lost Teron Armstead, they're still really good.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good team. And after the Alvin Kamara drama is sorted out and you have him for the home stretch, that's a playoff team.
Yeah. And the new thinking, I promised this earlier, the new thinking with Kamara is he may not be suspended this year at all because of when the court proceedings will happen with everything that happened with that fight in Vegas right at the same time as the Pro Bowl. So you could, and there's a lot of fantasy experts weighing in on the fact that right now his ADP is really low. You should snatch him up. So we'll talk about fantasy in a second. Zach, 1.5 teams making the playoffs, over or under?
I'm also going with that over. I mean, the Bucks should be a lock because of the Bucks. If Jarvis Landry does well, not Jarvis Landry. If Jameis Winston does well, the Saints should also be a lock. I think both of those teams should easily make it into the playoffs. I mean, of course, the Saints will make a wild card spot, but considering that they were 9-8 last season, it only takes a few more wins to really lock down a wild card spot there. I can see them getting 10 wins. I think they can lock that spot down. The Panthers, I think the Panthers highest end possibility, not likely. But if Baker Mayfield, gets his form back, everything works out perfectly well, and McCaffrey doesn't get injured, which is, impossible odds, as we all know, I think they could be in the running for a wild card spot as well. Okay. Impossible odds for the Panthers. But maybe not impossible. Like
he's burning.
Best case scenario, I can see them being a borderline 7 team. I can see it. But I'm going with the over. Bucks and Saints should make it. Panthers have the tiniest of chances, and the Falcons exist. So, yeah.
That they do. Okay, so I tend to agree with you. What I would say is the Saints are a lock. We'll see if the Bucks can make it. Division champions. Let's go to you. Let's stay with you, Zach. Division champion here.
Not the Saints. Sorry. I really can't count the Bucks. I mean, Tom Brady's still there. They have a great offense. They have a great defense. There's they lost a piece or two, maybe like a player or two, like nothing crazy. Nothing that really says to me this team is actually worse than they were last year, besides losing Gronk. And Gronk is, not the best tight end in the league or anything. He's a pretty average tight end nowadays, which is not saying he's bad. He's just average.
He's like the Kirk Cousins of tight ends.
Yes, exactly. He's the Kirk Cousins of tight ends. That's it.
Go ahead and give us the rest of your standings while we're here.
Yeah, sure. So I have the Bucks at number 1. I have the Saints at number 2, the Panthers at 3, and the Falcons at 4. I mean, it's a pretty standard top. It's a pretty standard list right there. I think we should all be sharing that list. I mean, besides you putting your Saints ahead of the Bucks by some miracle that they do it. Of course, the Saints might win those 2 games against them, but what about the rest of the games?
Absolutely. No, you're right. We have to go to Philly. That's no small feat.
No, it's
going
not.
to you. Going to you, Jack. Jack, give me your 4.
Because we kicked.
I know. 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. I get it.
Yeah.
Jack, I don't know why those games are never in New Orleans. Jack, going to you. Give me your top 4.
I mean, I think I'm going to have to go to the default. I'm pretty locked in with Bucks 1, Saints 2, Panthers 3, Falcons 4. The only bit of variation that I could see is if for whatever reason Jameis Winston turns into a god and the Saints win the division, or B, the Panthers do something stupid at quarterback and bench Baker and then finish below them.
Okay, well, let me give you my 4. I agree. Falcons 4. I agree. Panthers 3. I'm not optimistic that they have a chance at the playoffs. I think there are too many good teams in the NFC West, maybe 2 teams in the NFC East. So we'll see. And then I have the Bucks second and the Saints first. It's not just because I'm a homer. The the Saints have had a lot of success other than in the playoff game against Tom Brady. They have never lost to him in the regular season since he's been in Tampa. And I just think that continues. And I think that in the end, they're fighting to the last week, and they may end up tied, and they may, and the Saints will have that tiebreaker. I just believe that this team is built now that they finally decided. Sean Payton left, and they were like, hey, we don't have to get scrap heap wide receivers. We can get some people that can actually play. I think it's going to make a huge difference. I think the defense is way underrated. They shut Tom Brady out last year on Sunday Night Football 9-0. And that was when we didn't have a quarterback. All we had was Taysom Hill. So I'm excited about this. I think it is going to be one of the more exciting finishes as far as division championships go. I don't know that either of these teams are Super Bowl contenders necessarily, but we'll have to see how that goes. Let's do something a little different. We didn't do it the first 2 weeks. We're going to try it this week. We'll see if it sticks. Let's do a little fantasy draft really quickly. We each get to draft 4 players, a quarterback, a running back, a wide receiver, and a flex, any position you want, just from the NFC South. Zach is not a fan of the NFC South. He thinks Kirk Cousins plays on every team. So we're going to let him pick first. And it will be a snake draft. So you'll pick first, and then and Jack will be second. I'll pick twice, and we'll go back. So 4 rounds only. Who is your number 1 fantasy option in the NFC South?
Ooh. Man, I mean, it really comes down to 2 players that I think can really succeed this year. I mean, of course, depending on a few things, but it's McCaffrey or Kamara for me. I mean, 2 running backs. Running back's always a position that's, is kind of a luxury. I'm gonna go with the pick that everyone else goes with and never works because he always gets injured. I'm gonna go McCaffrey at 1. The talent is just always there. The Panthers use him. It's gonna work out. If he stays healthy, it's gonna be a great pick. But he never does. I'm still gonna take him number 1 though because he's the best player in this draft.
All right, good pick. Going to Jack. Let's see if Jack can back up his DJ Moore love with a first-round selection.
Okay.
We'll see.
I do love DJ Moore. I don't love him this much. I'm gonna rob Brian here. I think I have to take Kamara just because. I mean, there's 2 guys in this division that have the absolute championship-winning elite upside, and that's McCaffrey and Kamara, and it just has to be Kamara.
Yeah. No, that's a good pick. I tried to talk you into DJ Moore, tried to get you there, but it didn't work. No, I like those picks. So now I look at it, and if we're playing in a PPR league, I like Mike Evans, I like Mike Thomas, and I like DJ Moore. I'll throw him into this conversation. I would love to go with Leonard Fournette. I can't trust him in a first round of a 3-team draft, so I'm not going to go there. But I do think the Bucs are going to heavily rely on him. But to not be a homer, I'm going to go Mike Evans. So give me Mike Evans with the first pick. I just think, he shows up every year. He won't show up every week, but he shows up every year. And so you're going to have to deal with some weeks where he has 2 catches for 12 yards and some weeks where he has 4 catches with 3 touchdowns and 130 yards. So I'm going to take Mike Evans. Then just to prove I'm not a homer, I'm going to take Mike Thomas too, because I'm just going to load up at wide receiver. And I know where Jack's going to go next, but I agree with what both of you have said, that I think Mike Thomas comes back into this offense. He's been working with Jameis Winston. Having another option on the other side means he doesn't have to be a deep ball threat, which he really isn't. You have Olave for that. You have Jarvis Landry in the slot. I think it's a beautiful setup. I think he has another 100+ catch season, gets back to his old form. Give me Mike Thomas in the second round.
All right. Yeah, I'm taking my boy. I'm taking DJ Moore. I've already been through the shtick with him. I think that he's going to have the best year of his career. I think that Baker Mayfield is not the perfect fit, but it's absolutely the best quarterback he's ever had, and that'll give him his best numbers he's ever had.
Oh man, now I got 2 picks back to back. Kind of the pressure's on, but I really gotta start with the best wide receiver left. The best wide receiver left, and that's Chris Godwin. I mean, great wide receiver 2 for the Bucs. He's gonna get plenty of balls thrown his way. No doubt in my mind that that's a pretty solid pick. And then
quickly before you go there. We have injury issues on Zach's team. We have McCaffrey and we have Godwin. So his third pick is going to be key to sustain some success here.
And this third pick is the most sustained success in NFL history. I'm going with the first quarterback off the board. I'm going Tom Brady here.
Yep. That's a pretty solid pick. You need a quarterback, and let's
He's
just say
by far the best and most proven quarterback on this board. Needed one, got the guy.
yeah, let's just say that's the least arguable statement in the history of NFL podcasts. If you look at this quarterback room,
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Going back to Jack, who do you have in now that you already? Just to recap: Alvin Kamara at running back, DJ Moore at wide receiver. Who's your third pick?
So I'm going to do something kind of strategic here. There's some flex options on the board that I really like, but there's one quarterback on the board that I really like. And I know Brian has 2 picks back-to-back right after me. And he's absolutely going to snag this guy if I don't take him. So I'm going to take Jameis.
Yep. Interesting. I didn't know. I obviously was thinking, are you going Jameis? The good news is I have my last 2 picks. Now, I have 2 wide receivers, so I have to go running back and I have to go quarterback. So I'm really stuck right now with Leonard Fournette or Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson had some really successful weeks last year. I think the biggest problem he has is it's like, what is going on in that offense? There's no passing game to speak of. Mariota may even steal a few rushing touchdowns from him. So I'm going to go with Uncle Lenny, and we're going to bring the LSU guy back home, and he's going to be playing for me, some Leonard Fournette. So that'll be my running back. And then I have to pick a quarterback. You're making me pick a quarterback. I could go back up with like a Taysom Hill selection, which I hate, so I'm not going to do that. I think I got to go Baker. I got to trust because of this 3-team league, and I'm not going to have anybody like that. I'm going to have to go Baker Mayfield, and hopefully he has the best season he's had, and he just needed to get out of Cleveland. So back to you, Jack.
All right. So my options here, I'm basically between 2 Falcons. I'm between Cordell Patterson.
Tough place to be.
It's Cordell Patterson, who, I mean, he had a very surprising and very good year last year. He's a PPR machine, and I'm assuming we're playing PPR because who wouldn't?
Sure.
So it's definitely an enticing pick, but I've already got my quarterback, I've already got my running back, and I've already got my wide receiver, which means I've got some flexibility here. And I'm going to take Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is a really, like, he's already a top 5 tight end of the league. He's going to get better. He's a freak athletically. And look, the Falcons offense is not good, but Kyle Pitts is, and I'm going to trust his talent to do something.
I really look forward to watching balls bounce to him from Mariota, from about 5 yards out. But all right, so you had your flex pick. Now we're back to Zach with the last pick. It's a flex. It can be anything. Mariota's sitting up there waiting for you to pick him. You got a lot of other good names. You got some good selections.
Yeah. Pitts, I was hoping Pitts was going to fall to me. That was going to be my guy to end it out. Hopefully, the only tight end that was going to be taken in this draft. But I'm going to go with Jarvis Landry. I really like what Jarvis Landry did in Cleveland. Great upside as a wide receiver, too, for my team, alongside Godwin. I mean, I'm a big fan of the group that I drafted today. But, yeah, Jarvis Landry, again, if Jameis Winston figures it out, he's going to be a great number 2 option. He's going to be a great wide receiver for him. So, it really falls on Jameis's hands or arms or whatever a quarterback uses.
It's interesting. It's interesting to think about some of the names that weren't selected, like a Drake London, Chris Olave. I think Russell Gage is going to be really good for Tampa. I think he's going to be a really good pick. And then Terrace Marshall. Terrace Marshall is going to fly under the radar and may be able to step up and take Robbie Anderson's kind of number 2 slot in that offense. So there's more good picks. Obviously, we were only picking from the NFC South, so it's a weird exercise. Although I think it was fun, and we got to do it again next week. But looking back at the team, Zach, you went McCaffrey, Godwin, Brady, Landry. So $2 there. Jack goes heavy Saints. He can't pick the Saints to win the thing, but he's got Kamara and Winston, DJ Moore, Kyle Pitts. And then I went Mike Evans, Mike Thomas, Leonard Fournette, Baker Mayfield. I guess I'm leaning Tampa on that, even though I picked the Saints. So interesting. I think there's more options in this division than you think there are. You got the Saints and Tampa both are 3 deep wide receiver, so something to consider. But All right, guys. Thanks a lot. That was a lot of fun. And another week of Pass the Rock Down. You can always check it out on our YouTube. And just remember, twitch.tv/Lost Tribe TV. That's what you're watching, Lost Tribe TV. And we'll see you next week.